Every day letters arrive here, not one or two. Many. Sealed envelopes, printed pages, handwritten notes, all of them claiming to carry something from the divine. I open them, I read them, and most of the time I understand within the first paragraph why they were sent. I read them, I note what they contain, and I place them in the stack. Today, something different arrived. This one came this morning, and I want to tell you something honestly. When I picked it up, I stopped because there was something different about the weight of it, not the paper weight, something else, something that I cannot fully explain. And I have been doing this long enough to know that when I cannot explain something about a letter, I do not dismiss it. I sit with it. I sat with this one for several hours before I opened it. On the back, this seal, and on the front, written in careful, deliberate handwriting, not printed, handwritten, one line. I am going to read it to you exactly as it appears. Do not open this alone. This belongs to someone watching. Now, I open letters every single day, letters that claim to be from angels, letters that claim to be divine transmissions, dozens of them. And I will be honest with you, very few of them stop me the way this one stopped me. But this sentence stopped me completely, because it did not say, open this and share it. It said it belongs to someone watching, as though whoever wrote it already knew that I would be here on camera, with you on the other side of a screen. That is when I decided to open it on camera, with you, right now. 3 things: a letter, a collection of images and printed words, each one numbered on the back in order. And this, a USB drive, and the label on it reads, "A letter from Archangel Michael for the one who opens this today." I need you to hear that. Not for whoever finds this, not for the reader. It says, for the one who opens this today. Singular, as though it was written for exactly one person. And whoever that person is, I believe they are watching this right now. I am going to plug this drive into the screen here, and I am going to let you read every word exactly as it was given to me. At specific points in the letter, I was instructed to hold up each of these printed items and show them directly to the camera. I will do that exactly as instructed. Nothing added, nothing removed. This letter is not from me. I am only the one who received the envelope and was trusted to make sure it reached the right person. I believe that person is you. So, let us find out what heaven sent.
Stop. Do not look away from these words. Do not tell yourself you will come back to this later, because there is no later assigned for what I am about to deliver to you. There is only now, this moment, this breath, this word landing in your eyes at the exact second heaven ordained it to land. I am Michael, Archangel, commander of heaven's armies, guardian of the threshold between what is seen and what is unseen. And I did not arrive here today by accident, and neither did you. There are moments in a human life that look, from the outside, like nothing special. A hand reaching for a phone, a pair of eyes stopping on something that was not searched for, not expected, not planned. Today, one of those invisible moments happened for you. And I need you to understand something right now before another second passes. That moment was not invisible to me. It was never invisible to me. I have been watching, I have been waiting, and I have been sent. I am Michael. I walk at the boundary between what is seen and what is unseen, between what is known and what heaven has not yet released into the visible world. My assignment, the one placed upon me since before the stars were named and the constellations were set in their positions, is to intervene. To step directly into the path of a life at the exact moment when that life is approaching something too important, too irreversible, too divinely significant to be left to chance. And that is precisely what I am doing right now, with you, in this moment that you assumed was just another ordinary fragment of an ordinary day. Hear me clearly. The fact that you are here, reading these words on this specific day, is not the result of a random click or an accidental scroll. What brought you here today is the same sovereign force that has been quietly, deliberately, and precisely arranging the circumstances of your life for far longer than you have been conscious of it. The same force that closed certain doors before you could walk through them. The same force that held you back from certain choices that would have fractured your story in ways that heaven absolutely could not permit. The same force that spoke to you on your lowest nights, not loudly enough to be heard with the ears, but clearly enough to be felt in the center of your chest. The voice that said, "This is not the end. Wait, something is coming. Today, what was coming has arrived. I will not ask for your comfort. I will not ask you to settle in and relax. I will ask you to be awake, to be alert. Because what I am about to deliver to you in this message is not decoration. It is not spiritual entertainment. It is a transmission, sent from the authority of heaven itself, for the purpose of preparing you for what is already in motion in your life. Right now, even as you read these words, set aside everything you think you already know about how this works, about whether miracles still happen, about whether divine communication is real, about whether a woman of your age, with the history you carry, with the chapters already written behind you, whether she is still the kind of person who receives this kind of direct, commanding, heaven-issued message. Because every one of those doubts, however understandable they are, is going to make a determined and aggressive effort today to talk you out of receiving what you have been brought here to receive. And I will not allow it. Not today. Today, you receive. Today, you open. Today, the thing that has been sealed over your life is broken open. And I am the one heaven sent to make sure you are standing in the right position when it happens. Listen carefully, because what I am about to say about today carries the full weight of divine authority behind it. Most people move through their days the way they move through weather. Passively, reactively. Something happens around them, to them, without their full comprehension of what that something actually is, or what it is setting in motion. A good day arrives and they receive it gratefully. A hard day arrives and they endure it. And then another day arrives, and another, and the months accumulate, and the years stack up. And from inside the experience, it becomes nearly impossible to see the true shape of the thing, the way you cannot see the pattern of a great mosaic when your face is pressed against a single tile. But from where I stand, outside of that stream of time, with the authority to see what human eyes cannot reach, I see the whole mosaic. And what I see when I look at the arc of your life up to this precise, unrepeatable moment is breathtaking. Every experience that broke something in you also cleared something. Every relationship that ended took with it an energy that was occupying a space that something better needed to occupy. Every prayer that seemed to go unanswered was in fact answered with a not yet. That was, in every single case, an act of divine protection, not a withholding, not an oversight, not a denial, protection. And today, this particular today, this specific day that your calendar treats as unremarkable, this is the day where the not yet finally, decisively becomes now. I will be direct with you because heaven has commanded me to be direct rather than vague, to be clear rather than comforting, to be authoritative rather than merely pleasant. Today is an appointed day, not for everyone who encounters this letter, not for a general, anonymous audience, for you, specifically, by name, the divine calendar, which operates on a precision that no human system can replicate or comprehend, has marked today as the day when something that has been sealed is opened, when something that has been held back is released, when something that you stopped expecting because it had been so long in coming that continuing to hope for it felt like foolishness, suddenly becomes undeniable. There will be evidence of this before this day ends. I will tell you exactly what to watch for. But first, you must understand why today was chosen and why it could not have been a single day sooner.
The first image from the envelope. And when I first saw this, when I pulled it out and looked at it, I understood immediately why it was placed at the beginning of this letter, not at the middle, not at the end, right here, before you know everything that is coming. Look at this image. Let it speak to you first, before the letter explains it. Then we continue.
You have been in a season of preparation, not a short season, not the comfortable kind that lasts a few weeks and then pleasantly yields to the next thing. A long season, the kind that stretches and stretches until the person inside it begins to genuinely question whether this is simply what life is now, whether the waiting has somehow hardened into the permanent condition rather than remaining the temporary one it was always meant to be. If you have felt that way, hear me now, and hear me with the full weight of what I carry. The length of the preparation was not proportional to the difficulty of the lesson. It was proportional to the magnitude of what is coming. Heaven does not spend years preparing people for small blessings. Small blessings can arrive on short notice. What demands years, what requires the kind of slow, interior, often invisible preparation that cannot be shortcut or fast-forwarded, is the kind of blessing so specific, so precisely calibrated to the exact person you would become through the process, that rushing it would have ruined it. Understand this. There is a kind of master artisan, the rarest kind that exists in any craft, who works with materials that simply cannot be hurried, who will invest 2 years on a single piece because the piece demands 2 years, because anything less produces something that is superficially beautiful, but structurally incomplete. Something that looks finished until it is tested, and then reveals exactly where the preparation was cut short. Heaven is that kind of artisan. And you, beloved one, are not a project that heaven was willing to rush, to compromise, or to deliver before the work was complete. The years behind you, with all of their weight, all of their grief, all of their moments of wondering in the darkness whether you had been forgotten by the very God you kept reaching toward. Those were not years that heaven spent looking away from you. They were years that heaven spent leaning in, working inside the circumstances, working inside the difficulties, working inside even the betrayals and the losses and the things that appeared purely senseless and without redemptive purpose, working inside all of it with a patience, a precision, and a care that only becomes visible when the work is finished. Today, the work is finished. Hear that again. Today, the work is finished. And I command you to notice what that means for the weight you have been carrying. Because the weight that came from incompleteness, from things unresolved and blessings not yet received, from the open-endedness of waiting for something that had not yet arrived, that weight is beginning to lift today. Not because the visible circumstances have all rearranged themselves yet, but because the decision has been made in heaven. And when heaven makes a decision, the spiritual reality shifts first, and the visible world has no choice but to catch up.
This is the first printed word from the envelope. There is no explanation with it, no instruction, just the word itself, printed large, bold, as though it needed no context, because it carries its own. Take your time reading it. I will hold it steady.
Now I must tell you something that you are not going to be able to dismiss once I have said it. Because what is happening today is not only about you in isolation. There is a specific dimension to the miracle of this day, and it involves a person. A specific, spiritually significant connection exists between you and another soul who has been moving through their own parallel preparation, largely unaware of how precisely their journey has been synchronized with yours. This is not coincidence. This is not parallel circumstance. This is orchestration. Divine orchestration, deliberate and exact, arranged by the same hand that arranged everything else you have attributed to chance in your life. There is someone, in your life, or on its perimeter, or approaching its edge from a direction you may not yet be able to see. Someone whose story is entangled with yours in a way that neither of you fully understands yet. This person has been on your mind, and you may have tried to manage that, to rationalize it, to talk yourself out of giving it too much attention. Because giving attention to someone who has not yet given you the clarity you need feels risky. It feels like positioning yourself for another disappointment. It feels like a door that, if you open it again, may be slammed in your face again. I hear that. I understand it. What you have experienced before earned that caution. But I'm here today with a specific, authoritative command regarding it. There is a difference, a critical difference, between protection that serves you and protection that has become a cage, between wisdom that shields you and wisdom that is quietly turned into a wall that is keeping out something you need, the one who keeps appearing in your thoughts, the one your heart produces without your permission. They are not a coincidence. Their soul knows your soul. And the reason you cannot fully release them, despite your very reasonable efforts to do so, is not weakness. It is not poor judgment. It is a recognition. Souls that are connected by divine design do not release each other cleanly or permanently. They orbit each other because the work between them is not finished. And today, the next chapter of that work begins. This person has been carrying something unspoken, something that sits at the intersection of genuine feeling and real fear, where the depth of what they feel is matched almost evenly by the terror of expressing it and being found insufficient, or being rejected, or being wrong about how fully they are received. They have been maintaining a careful distance, not because the feeling is small, precisely because the feeling is enormous, and enormous feelings demand enormous courage to express. Today, that courage arrives for them, not because they manufactured it, because heaven delivered it. Pay close attention today to anything unexpected, anything that arrives in a way you were not anticipating. A communication, a moment of sudden shared space, something that narrows the world to a single point of undeniable meaning. The soul connected to your miracle today is moving, and it is moving toward you. I need to stop here and speak directly to a specific heart in this gathering, and if it is yours, you will feel it immediately. You almost did not stay with this message. In the first minutes, you felt the familiar pull, the cynicism that experience taught you, the exhaustion that accumulated waiting has produced, the very reasonable reluctance of a person who has been disappointed too many times after allowing herself to believe that something was finally turning. You have heard the word miracle before. You have believed in turning points before. You have knelt in genuine, sincere, wholehearted prayer before and risen to find the visible world stubbornly, infuriatingly unchanged. And yet, here you are.
This was the image that stopped me the longest when I was going through what was in this envelope, because it is not of an angel, it is not of heaven, it is of two people, and what is between them. Look at it, really look. The letter is about to explain this, but first let the image land.
I am telling you, with all of the authority I carry, that your staying is not foolishness. It is not naive. It is not the wishful thinking of a person who has not yet learned her lesson. It is faith, not the easy kind, not the faith that costs nothing because it has never been seriously tested. The hard kind, the kind that lives in a woman who has taken her belief out into the open, tested it against real loss and real pain and real disillusionment, and found it still standing on the other side. Battered, perhaps, worn, certainly, but standing. That kind of faith is rare, and I say this with complete and unqualified authority. Heaven does not let it go unrewarded, ever. The very resistance you felt at the beginning of this message, the voice that said, "This is probably just another thing," that instinct to armor yourself against the possibility of being moved and then disappointed again. That resistance is itself evidence that something real is at stake today. We do not armor ourselves against things that cannot touch us. We armor ourselves against things that matter. And today, what is on the other side of that armor matters more than anything you have believed for in a very long time. You stayed. Now, receive. And now, because I have been sent with complete authority and complete clarity, I am going to deliver the specific purpose behind this appointed day. This is not a general encouragement. This is a directive from heaven, addressed by name to the life you are living right now. Heaven looked at the specific details of your story, your history, your waiting, your love, your patience, your loss, and it marked today as the answer, not as a reward, not as compensation, as the natural arrival point of everything that was set in motion long before you were aware of it. The seed is reaching the surface. Today, you see green. I am also going to tell you something that will feel, at first, like too much to accept. And that feeling of too much is itself something I want to speak to directly. Because the lives that have carried genuine difficulty tend to develop, over time, a kind of mercy cap, a place where the person stops themselves from hoping above a certain height, because the fall from higher hope has, in the past, cost too much. If you recognize that cap in yourself, the limited ceiling version of what you allow yourself to want, I am commanding you to remove it, right now, in this moment, because the size of what is coming will not fit inside a ceiling that pain installed. And heaven did not prepare this for you, so that you could receive a smaller version of it. What was prepared is exactly what was prepared, and it is large.
Another word. This one came with a small instruction attached. It said, "Show this," when the letter speaks about the door. The letter just did that. So here it is. Read it slowly. Every word carries weight.
Now I am going to do something precise. I am going to describe the structure of what heaven has constructed for you, because understanding what a thing is made of is what allows you to recognize it when it arrives. And I am commanding you to recognize this, not to let it walk past you while you are explaining it away as ordinary. What is coming for you today, and in the days that unfold from today, is not a single, isolated event. It is a cascade, a sequence of openings, each one unlocking the next with a logic and a precision that will only be fully visible in retrospect, but that is, in this moment, operating with extraordinary exactness. Heaven constructs miracles the way rivers construct their paths, not in a straight line, not through the easiest terrain, but always, always finding their way to the destination, regardless of the obstacles between them and it. The first element in this cascade is a shift in awareness. Hear this carefully. There is something in your life, or in your understanding of your life, that you have been seeing through a distorted lens. A person you have read one way, through the filter of past pain. A situation you have interpreted through the only framework available to you before today. A possibility you have discounted as improbable because the evidence available to you up to this point made it appear so. Today, something changes about the clarity with which you see, not because the facts themselves change, because the position from which you view them shifts, and what was previously in shadow becomes visible. What was obscured by the residue of old wounds becomes clear. This shift will not be forced. You cannot manufacture it, but you can prepare for it by being willing to be wrong about something you were certain you were right about. That willingness is the crack in the wall through which new clarity enters. And I am issuing a direct command to your spirit right now. Be willing. Hold your current conclusions loosely enough that if heaven needs to update your understanding today, there is room for the update. The second element is an unexpected encounter or communication. Hear the word unexpected carefully. It does not necessarily mean shocking. It means arriving in a way at a moment with a content that you were not planning for. It means coming from a direction you were not watching. This communication may be direct or indirect. It may use words, or it may use silence that speaks more loudly than words. It may come from the person connected to your miracle, or it may arrive from a completely unexpected direction and still serve as the precise key that opens the same lock. What makes this communication significant is not its size. It is its timing. Pay fierce attention today to anything that arrives at a moment that feels somehow loaded, larger than its apparent contents. A text, a call, a person who appears in your path and says something that lands with a weight entirely disproportionate to the words themselves. Even an overheard sentence in a public place that seems impossibly to be speaking directly to the most private corner of your current situation. Heaven uses everything available to it. All of it is a valid channel. The third element, and this is the one that sustains everything that follows, is a deepening of peace. Not the fragile, circumstance-dependent peace that shatters the moment something new goes wrong. The kind that Paul described from inside a prison cell. The kind that passes understanding. That exists independently of whether the surface of life looks the way you would choose. That sits quietly and unshakably in the center of a person who has accepted, at some foundational level, that she is held, not in spite of the hard things, not after them, inside them. That peace is not a reward for getting everything right. It is a gift from heaven to a soul who has been faithful in the wilderness. Today, that gift has your name on it, and it is being delivered.
This next image was wrapped separately, and all it said on the outside of the wrapping was 2 words, "Show here." I do not know who made this, but whoever did, they knew exactly where it needed to appear. Look at what is in this image. Look at the perspective from which this scene is being viewed. Then let the letter continue.
Return with me now to the person connected to today, because there is more to say, and it is important that you understand it correctly, because misunderstanding it has cost you enough already. There is something this person has been unwilling to look at directly, a feeling they have been managing from a careful, calculated distance. The way someone manages a fire they cannot fully control by staying just far enough away that the heat is bearable. They have been maintaining that distance, not because the feeling is weak, because it is strong enough to demand something of them. A vulnerability, a courage, a willingness to stand exposed in front of another person with no guarantee of the outcome. And that demand has felt, until now, like more than they were equipped to offer. Hear what heaven is doing about that, right now, today. The distance this person has been keeping is being closed, not by pressure, not by persuasion, not by anything you did or did not do, by the quiet, inexorable, divine dissolving of the thing that made the distance feel necessary in the first place. The fear is being dismantled. The accumulated self-protection is being taken apart, piece by piece. The story they have been telling themselves about why staying back is the wiser choice is becoming, today, impossible to maintain. And you have already sensed this, even from a distance. The moments when you felt something from them that their behavior did not corroborate. The times when their energy reached you in a way that seemed disconnected from their silence. The unexplained emotional weather you sometimes experience that you could not trace to any obvious source. That was them, their interior reality pressing through the walls they constructed. And today, those walls are coming down. This person thinks about you with a tenderness they have not learned to express out loud. Not because the tenderness is small, because it is enormous. People who feel in ordinary measures can generally speak about what they feel without too much difficulty. But people who feel in extraordinary measures, for whom the depth of a connection is genuinely larger than the vocabulary they have been given for such things, those people go quiet. They retreat. They use distance as a substitute for the words they cannot find. And from the outside, that distance looks like indifference. But from the inside, it is the opposite of indifference. It is the full, rather terrifying weight of caring about someone so deeply that the fear of losing them, or disappointing them, or being found insufficient by them, temporarily eclipses the courage to say anything at all. Today, that eclipse ends. The fear yields. The silence breaks. And what has been building in the interior of this person for longer than either of you has been comfortable acknowledging moves toward expression.
There is another printed word here, and this one is not gentle. It is a declarative statement about a specific person, about what they are actually doing while you cannot see them. Read it. Sit with what it says. Then we continue.
There is a specific truth I need to name now, and if it is for you, you will feel it settle into you the way rain settles into drought-cracked earth. Deep, immediate, necessary. You have given a very great deal in your life, not just in your relationships, though you have certainly given greatly there, in your energy, in your sustained, faithful, rarely acknowledged attention to the lives of others, in your patience, in the sheer number of times you absorbed a difficulty quietly rather than making it someone else's problem, in the years of being the steady one, the capable one, the one others leaned on because you were so reliably, dependably there. You have poured yourself out in the way that people do when they carry genuine reserves of love and a genuine, unshakable conviction about what love requires. And you have not always been poured into in the same proportion. That imbalance is not invisible. It was never invisible. It has been seen with perfect clarity, and it has been noted, and it is part of what makes today particularly significant. Because one of the things that the miracle of today is specifically designed to begin correcting is that imbalance. Not as a transaction, not as a cosmic accounting exercise where a score is finally settled, but as the natural, inevitable consequence of the spiritual law that states, without qualification, without exception, and without negotiation, What is poured out in genuine love will be restored. Not always by the same hands, not always in the same currency, but restored, completely, abundantly. The people in your life who most need to understand what you have given them are in the process of coming to that understanding today. The circumstances in your life that have taken more than they have given are in the process of shifting. And you, who have spent so long with your hands extended outward, today you get to receive. Open those hands. Do not clench them against the unfamiliarity of it. What is coming toward you carries no condition attached. It is simply yours. It has always been yours. And accepting it is not weakness. It is completion.
This image came with a single instruction. Show this when the letter speaks about what has been poured out. That is exactly where we are. Look at what this woman is doing. Look at her posture. Look at what is coming toward her. This is not a fantasy. This is what today looks like in heaven's eyes for you.
Let me tell you what I observe in the spiritual environment surrounding your life at this precise moment. Because the invisible world is not static. It has its own weather systems, its own atmospheric conditions. And right now, around you, the conditions are extraordinary. There is a clearing happening. If you have ever stood at a window and watched a heavy morning fog begin to lift from the landscape, the way it retreats slowly, then suddenly, the way the shapes it had obscured gradually resolve into their true forms until the whole scene is undeniably, completely there. That is what is happening in the spiritual atmosphere around your life today. What was obscured is becoming visible. What was ambiguous is resolving into clarity. What was formless and frustrating is acquiring a shape that you will be able to recognize, name, and hold. There is also warmth in the spiritual weather today, not metaphorical warmth only, a genuine energetic warmth that surrounds a life when heaven's full, undivided, actively engaged attention is directed at it. You may have felt something unexplainable today, a physical warmth, a sensation in the chest that arrived without obvious cause, a moment where the air around you seemed to hold something just beyond ordinary description. If you felt that and dismissed it, I am commanding you to retrieve that moment and reconsider it. That was me. Or rather, that was the first evidence of what I have been sent to deliver. Your spirit recognized it before your mind could explain it, because your spirit has access to a truth that your mind is only now catching up to. And the most significant piece of today's spiritual weather, the one that changes everything, there is an opening. A gap has appeared in what has been, until now, a closed arrangement. The kind of arrangement where everything seemed fixed, locked in position, and no amount of good intention or sustained, faithful waiting appeared to shift it even slightly. Today, a gap has appeared in that arrangement, not because of anything you did this morning, because the timing has finally aligned, because the preparation on every side of the divine equation has simultaneously reached completion. And a gap in a closed arrangement is not just a gap. It is an invitation for something new to enter, something warm, something purposeful, something that has been waiting with extraordinary patience for precisely this moment to move in your direction today.
This word came with a specific instruction. Show after the spiritual weather passage. We are directly after it. Hold on to what you just read about the fog lifting, the clearing, the opening. Then read this and see if these words feel like a coincidence.
Someone might reasonably ask why I, Michael, am the voice carrying this message today. There are many expressions of divine guidance, many ways heaven chooses to speak. Why this one? Why this voice? Why now and through me? I will answer that directly, because the answer is part of the message. My function, across the full span of my existence, has been to stand at the boundary between what threatens and what must be protected, to be the line that cannot be crossed by what does not belong, and to be the door that opens without restriction for what does. I carry a sword, and that sword is not only an instrument of battle, it is an instrument of precision. It cuts away what has attached itself where it does not belong. It clears what is blocking the path. It separates what has been wrongly tangled together, and it guards the opening through which something new is about to enter. Today, that sword has been specifically and deliberately at work in your situation. There have been things, forces, patterns, spiritual energies, whatever language you prefer for the category of things that block blessings without being invited and without being immediately visible. There have been things of that kind that needed to be removed from the path of what heaven is sending to you. And that removal has been my work in this season. Not dramatic, not announced, a quiet, precise, systematic cutting, a careful clearing. Piece by piece, over time, until today, the path is clear. That is why I am the one here, not only to deliver a message, but to confirm, with the full authority of the position I hold, that the clearing is done, that what was blocking has been moved, that the door through which your miracle arrives today is not being held shut by anything that retains the power to hold it closed. You are not walking into an ambush. You are walking into an arrival, and I will be walking directly beside you.
This image is about Michael directly, about the sword he just described. I want you to look at it without flinching. This is not a violent image. Look at what the sword is cutting. Look at what is falling. This is what has been happening in your life in the season you could not explain. The clearing you did not see. Look at what it looks like from the other side of the veil.
Now, I am going to give you something practical, something actionable, because the most commanding spiritual message becomes noise if it does not equip you with something you can use. So let me tell you exactly what today's miracle looks like when it arrives. And let me be clear, it will not announce itself with lights and trumpets. That is not how these things work. What it will arrive with is resonance, a feeling in the moment it touches your life, of recognition, of yes, this is it, of something in your body and your spirit settling, the way a breath settles after being held too long, the way shoulders drop when a weight that was too familiar to notice is finally lifted. You will feel a quality of interior stillness around the moment of arrival, not an absence of sound in the physical world, an interior stillness, a quality of everything pausing, the way time appears to slow around a moment of genuine significance. When you feel that quality of stillness today, around any interaction or communication or unexpected thought or encounter, do not rush past it. Stand in it. Even for a moment, let it complete itself. That stillness is heaven saying, pay attention. This is the one. There will be an emotional response that seems larger than the visible cause warrants. Someone says something ordinary, and you feel something enormous in response. You receive a brief message, and something in you reacts as though you have just read the most significant letter of your entire life. This is not an overreaction. This is your spirit correctly calibrating the actual significance of the moment, even when the surface features of it appear small. Trust that calibration. Trust the depth of what you feel over the apparent size of what triggered it. And there is one final sign, the most important one. At some point today, something that has been living very quietly in the deepest part of you, something that started as hope, moved through doubt, survived the years of waiting, and has been maintaining a small but stubborn and completely unkillable existence in the furthest interior corner of your heart. That thing is going to become loud again. Not desperately loud, not the grasping, anxious loud of wanting something you fear you cannot have. The full, warm, certain loud of something that has finally irrevocably arrived. When that happens, I command you, welcome it. Do not look away. Do not minimize it back to a manageable size. Let it be exactly as large as it is, because its size is the measure of what heaven has been holding for you. And it is very large, and it is entirely yours.
This one. When I read this inside the envelope for the first time, I set it down. I picked it back up, because it does not speak in vague terms. It speaks about prayer, about the ones that felt like they went nowhere, about the ones you may have stopped saying out loud. If that is you, this was written for you specifically. Read every word.
I carry a message from the highest authority, and I will deliver it exactly as it was given to me. This is what God wants you to know about yourself today, and I will not soften it or qualify it or hedge it into something more comfortable, because the truth of it is too important to be diluted. You have underestimated what you are, not in an arrogant or inflated direction, in the quiet, persistent, well-practiced way that humans underestimate themselves when life has provided enough evidence of their limitations and not enough evidence of their depth. You have learned to be realistic about yourself in ways that crossed the line from wisdom into diminishment. You have learned to expect a certain ceiling, beyond which you have stopped genuinely believing you might be permitted to rise. You have carried a version of your own story that was written, at least partially, by other people's fears and failures and their inability to see you clearly. Today, heaven is issuing a correction to that story. Hear this. You were made for more than you have settled for, not as an indictment of your choices, not as a suggestion that you have failed, but in the way that a great river was made for more than a drought season permits it to be. The river does not fail to be a river in the dry season, but it is not fully what it was made to be until the rains come. You are that river. The rains are coming. Today. God also wants you to know, and this is the part that I want you to hold in your hands for the rest of this day and every day that follows it. Your faithfulness has been witnessed. Every morning you chose to rise when staying down would have been completely understandable. Every act of kindness toward someone who had offered none toward you. Every prayer you prayed from the floor of a moment when the floor was the only available position. Every time you chose trust, when trust was the far harder choice and the easier one was right there, waiting. Every single moment of that faithfulness was seen, was recorded, was received by a God who does not skim the surface of your life looking for the highlights, who reads every line, every chapter, every difficult, unglamorous, unwitnessed by anyone but heaven page. And the love that was always there, surrounding every one of those pages, is today taking a visible form. Today, it is entering the tangible, relational, physical world of your actual daily experience. And I am commanding you to be ready for it, to not look away because it feels like too much, to not minimize it back to a size your past has taught you is safe to accept, to let it be exactly the size it is. It is very large, and it is all for you. There is a prayer you prayed that I need to speak about now. Not necessarily a recent one, perhaps one from years ago, perhaps from a season so distant that the memory of it has become indistinct at the edges. A season when you were so raw, so stripped of pretense by circumstances, that the prayer you prayed was not even fully formed. It was more sound than sentence, more reaching than request. The kind of prayer that escapes from a person when the polished versions of prayer have run out, and what remains is simply the unfiltered need underneath all of it. That prayer went somewhere. I am telling you, with absolute authority, every prayer you have ever prayed with real heart in it went somewhere. And the ones that have taken the longest to visibly answer are not the ones that were ignored or denied or bounced off of an indifferent ceiling. They are the ones that required the most preparation, the most deliberate, careful, unhurried orchestration of people, timing, circumstances, and interior readiness before the answer could arrive in the visible world without being damaged by its own premature arrival. The prayer I am speaking of, the deep one, the one you may have eventually stopped speaking aloud because it seemed too far from any likelihood of fulfillment. That prayer has been in heaven's hands this entire time, without interruption, without being misplaced, without ever being treated as too small or too demanding or too complicated to deserve a full, complete, satisfying answer. It has been the subject of divine attention, and today, the answer is set in motion. I want you to pause, wherever you are sitting or standing or lying in this moment, in whatever physical space is around you right now, and let yourself feel the full truth of what I just said. The prayer that seemed lost was not lost. The longing that felt too persistent to be respectable was known and was honored. The version of your life that you allowed yourself to imagine only in your most private, most guarded, most genuinely hopeful moments. That version is not gone. It is arriving, not today in its completion, today in its beginning, and a beginning, beloved one, when it comes with the authority of heaven behind it, is everything.
This image, the letter asked me to place it here, after the prayer passage, and when I understood why, I sat with it for a long time. What you see in this image is a letter, an actual letter, written in light, sealed, then opened. I want you to look at it and understand what you are reading right now is that letter. It was written, it was sealed, it arrived, and it is open for you right now.
I am going to give you a glimpse of what sits on the other side of today. Not a complete blueprint, because those are not mine to provide, and because the beauty of what heaven gives consistently exceeds the imagination of the person who receives it. But a glimpse of the color, the quality, the emotional texture of what is coming. The next chapter of your life is quieter than the chapters that preceded it. Not smaller, quieter. The relentless noise of striving, of managing, of holding together things that were never quite stable enough to rest in. That noise is diminishing. What replaces it is a peace that does not depend on everything going according to plan, because it is rooted in a level of trust that only the hard seasons could build. A trust that does not require proof before it can stand. That stands because of who stood beside you through the times when there was no visible proof. There is a love in this next chapter that does not grasp. That does not constantly calculate its own safety. That is not exhausted by the effort of maintaining itself. A love that is, in the word that the old translations used, and that modern language has not entirely found a replacement for, steadfast, unmovable, not despite the imperfections of the people carrying it, but within those imperfections. The kind of love that makes room for the fullness of who you are, not just the presentable portions, that sees all of you and chooses, clearly and deliberately, to remain. There are mornings in this next chapter where you will wake before any thought has formed and feel, in that first conscious moment, the specific and unmistakable warmth of being in the right life, not a perfect life, your life, shaped precisely for who you have become through everything you endured to arrive here. That warmth is not fantasy. I have seen it waiting for you. It is real. And today is when it begins. You will not have to perform to keep what is coming. You will not have to make yourself smaller to make room for it. You will not have to be a revised, edited, safer version of yourself to deserve it. What is coming was specifically designed for who you are. Every difficulty, every loss, every year of becoming more fully yourself through the pressure of what you carried, all of it produced exactly the person who is capable of receiving and holding and inhabiting what begins today. Today sets in motion something else, and I am naming it directly because it matters for everything that follows. Some things in your life have been present for so long that they have begun to feel like permanent features of the landscape. A limitation that arrived during a hard season and quietly, gradually, began to present itself as simply the truth about what was available to you. A pattern in your relationships that repeated regardless of how deliberately you tried to interrupt it. A story about yourself that was handed to you by someone else's words or actions, someone who had neither the right nor the accuracy to define you, but whose definitions you eventually absorbed because they were repeated long enough and loudly enough. You may have fought against those things. You may have worked hard to replace them, but they kept reasserting themselves, the way deep-rooted weeds reassert themselves in a garden when the root has not been fully addressed. Today, the root is being addressed. Not by your effort, not by a new strategy or a stronger determination or a more disciplined approach to the work, by the specific and targeted intervention of a heaven that has decided, as of this day, that those roots have exhausted their permission to remain. The limitations that were never truly yours are being identified and removed. The patterns that were installed by experiences that should never have happened to you are being interrupted at their source. The ceiling that was placed over your expectations by people and circumstances that had no right to place it there is being lifted. This is not a gradual process that will quietly unfold over several more years. What begins today is decisive. You will not feel it as a single dramatic event, but you will notice, in the days ahead, that certain things that used to be automatic are no longer automatic. Certain thoughts that once arrived without invitation are quieter. Certain fears that once governed particular choices have lost their authority. Certain conversations that once left you depleted now leave you strangely intact. This is the removal. This is the clearing. This is what Michael was sent to do in the season preceding this day. The armor you built, it served you. I honor that. It was not weakness. It was intelligence. Your heart, in its wisdom, learned to protect itself from a world that had, at times, failed to protect it adequately. But armor that is never removed, even in safe company, eventually becomes its own limitation. A prison made of self-protection. Today, the company is safe. The space around you is held by powers far greater than anything that has ever threatened you. And I am commanding you, as your guardian and as heaven's appointed representative in this moment. You can begin to set it down.
This prediction. I want you to hear what I am about to say before you read it. This is the one I believe the entire letter was building toward. Everything before it was preparation for this word. Read it once, then read it again, and this time, let yourself believe it.
I am going to name something now that rarely gets named directly, because the people who feel it most acutely are also the people most practiced at not revealing it, and that silence serves no one, least of all you. I am speaking to the loneliness, not the loneliness of being physically alone, which is not always unwelcome and is not the kind that heaven sent me to address today. The deeper loneliness, the loneliness of being surrounded by people and yet not fully seen by any of them. Not because the people are unkind, but because the specific depth of who you are has not yet encountered its full counterpart. The loneliness of sitting across from someone and feeling the gap between the conversation that is happening and the conversation that could be happening if the other person were capable of going as deep as you are capable of going. The loneliness of having a quality of love inside you, a capacity for connection, that has not yet found a container strong enough and deep enough to hold it. If you know what I am describing, I see it. Heaven sees it. And it has never been treated as a small thing or an unreasonable want or an expectation that is simply too high for ordinary life to meet. Hear me on this. That specific loneliness, the depth of connection loneliness, is one of the primary things that today begins to resolve. Not by magic, not by the immediate and complete disappearance of every lonely feeling, but by the beginning of the filling, the slow, real, lasting filling of the spaces that have been empty for too long. Starting today, with the shift already happening, with the person already moving, with the opening that has already been made. You were not designed to carry that loneliness indefinitely. That was never the plan. It was a season. An extended one, yes, but a season. And seasons, however long they stretch and however permanent they begin to feel, always end. Today, this one is ending. What fills its place will not be perfect. Nothing human is, but it will be real, and it will be enough, more than enough. It will be the specific, irreplaceable, been worth every moment of the waiting, enough, that finally makes the full meaning of the preparation clear. I want to speak now about the hours remaining between this moment and the end of this day, because those hours are not simply hours. They are charged, spiritually charged, in a way that is not ordinary, in a way that your awareness of it makes a difference to how you move through them. For the rest of today, I am issuing this command to your spirit. Remain soft. Whatever that word means in your personal interior vocabulary, whatever posture you associate with being open rather than defended, receiving rather than managing, genuinely feeling rather than immediately analyzing and filing and controlling, remain in that posture, not rigidly, not as a performance, as a sustained intention, a choice that you make again in every moment that challenges it. If the pull toward distraction arrives, and it will, notice it without judgment, and then choose differently. Not because distraction is always wrong, because today, specifically, is not the day to lose yourself in noise. Today is the day to stay present, to stay close to the interior of your own experience, because the most important things that happen today will happen there, first, in the invisible interior, before they appear in the world outside. If someone contacts you today, do not rush the response. Do not answer from the automatic pilot of your social reflexes. Pause. Even briefly. Feel what the communication actually carries before you decide how to address what it contains. Because today, some communications will be carrying far more than their surface suggests. And responding only to the surface will mean missing entirely what is underneath. If you feel moved to reach out to someone, trust that movement immediately. Do not overthink it. Do not assemble the 1,000 practical arguments that reason can always manufacture on short notice. If the impulse to connect with a specific person arises today, it is not random. Honor it. Say the thing. Send the message. Make the call. Because heaven sometimes gives the same prompting to both sides of a connection at once, and in those moments, the soul that acts on it first often determines whether the meeting happens at all. And if today ends without anything on the surface appearing dramatically different, I command you to trust what you felt underneath. Because today's miracle is seeded today, planted today. And planted things are completely real before they are visible. The seed does not wait for someone to see it before it begins to grow. What was planted in your life today was planted by hands that know exactly what they are doing. And what will grow from it will be unmistakable.
The last image, the instruction with this one, was the most specific of everything in the envelope. It said, "Show this when the letter is nearly finished, after she has received everything. Before she leaves, let her see this. Let it be the last image she carries with her today. I think when you see it, you will understand exactly why."
We have arrived at the end of today's message, and I want to use these final moments not to summarize, because your spirit has already absorbed what it needed from every word that preceded this one. I want to use these moments to declare something over your life, with the full authority of the position I hold, with the full power of what I was sent today to speak. You are not a small story. Hear that. You are not a small story. You are not in the declining section of your narrative. You are not past the chapters that matter. You are not a person whose most important experiences are now behind her, framed in memory and gradually fading. You are a person whose most important experiences are ahead. Ahead, informed and deepened and made more significant by everything you have already lived. Ahead, in the form of love and peace and being fully, completely known in the way you have always deserved to be known. That future is not hope. It is not a consolation offered to ease the sting of disappointment. It is a divine declaration issued by heaven, backed by the authority of the God who created the specific soul that is inside you, and delivered today through me. Today, something was set in motion that cannot be reversed. Today, a door opened. Today, a heart somewhere in your relational world shifted in your direction with a permanence that does not unshift. Today, a prayer that seemed lost proved itself to have been held safely all along. Today, a season ended, and the next, better one stepped forward to take its place. And you were present for all of it. You stayed. You did not walk away. You did not talk yourself out of receiving. You stayed. That matters more than you know. And heaven has noted it. Go into the rest of this day with the posture of someone who knows something, who received something, who was found today by a heaven that had been looking for her for a very long time and found her exactly where she was supposed to be found. Watch for the signs described in this letter. Welcome what comes without flinching. Hold it without trying to make it smaller than it is. And when the old voices try to reframe today's miracle as coincidence, when the familiar voice of accumulated disappointment tries to whisper that you imagined it, remember, you read this before it arrived. You were warned. You were prepared. And it came exactly as promised. That is not coincidence. That is heaven keeping its word, as it always does, as it always will. Until the next letter reaches you, you are seen, you are loved, you are held, and you are never, in any moment of any day that follows this one, alone. This is a letter from Archangel Michael. Today, everything that was sealed has been opened.
The last thing in the envelope, one final word. The instruction on it is the simplest instruction in the entire package. 3 words. It says, read it aloud. That is everything that was in the envelope. Every word, every image, every printed declaration, shared with you in exactly the order, and at exactly the moments the letter itself instructed. Nothing withheld, nothing altered. I want to be honest with you about something. We open letters here, many letters, every day. Some of them are meaningful. Some of them are not. And in all the letters I have opened and shared, I have learned to feel the difference between a letter that was written about something and a letter that was written to someone. This one was written to someone. And I believe that person watched this to the end. I believe they stayed through all of it. Not because the content was easy to receive, some of it was not, but because somewhere in the very first moments, something in them recognized that this was for them, and they did not leave. If that was you, then the letter reached its destination. Take what you received here into the rest of today, and the day after that. Do not explain it away. Do not shrink it to a size that is easier for others to accept. What you received today was given in full measure. Receive it in full measure. Go gently and go expectant.